All right, wonderful. Thank you all for being here and welcome. And as we get started, I do just want to confirm, I know we did a quick confirmation, but for those online, are you able to see me, hear me, and see the LibGuide at this time, the screen share? Yes, wonderful. Okay, perfect. Perfect. When we are on the PowerPoint, we should have audio subtitles automatically from the PowerPoint. This is a more interactive workshop, so we will be skipping around. If you are on Teams, Teams does have a functionality on your screen to select just for you to add audio subtitles. If you're looking on Teams and you need audio subtitles for this, there is a More button with 3 dots. And if you click on that, you should see language and speech and show live captions. Another way to access that is by clicking Alt-Shift-C on your keyboard. If you would benefit from having live captions, that would be the best way to go about, to go about that. All right. All right, well, welcome. Hello, good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Tobi Goode. I'm one of the librarians here. And I typically do 1 or 2 of these Gen AI workshops each quarter on special topics. Thank you again for being here. This topical series, we have one this week and one next week. And the intention of these workshops is to be a bit more hands-on, a bit more interactive with our topic of generative AI. So the idea for this series is fun or foe. Gen AI. Is fun with generative AI possible? I think if you're, I wonder, if you're like me and like others maybe in this room, the conversations about Gen AI have been going on for a long time now, and it is getting maybe even a bit burnout, feeling a bit of burnout, feeling a bit tired from talking about it. So thinking on that, I wanted to lighten things up a little bit, but not too far, not go too far, and give us the opportunity to have a bit more interaction and a bit more engagement. So with generative AI, instead of just talking about it, let's get in there and use it a little bit and learn about it as we do that. So this session asks, is fun with generative AI possible? Can we have fun? And as we're looking at that question, looking at what some big tech companies are doing to provide fun with generative AI, we are going to find out some different ways that generative AI is being used that you might not be familiar with. Thinking, how can I recognize and evaluate AI-generated content? So the idea being, as we get more exposure, as we see more content that is generated by AI, we'll also be able to recognize that when we come across it in the wilds of the internet. And we really, of course, for a library workshop, want to think about how we evaluate AI-generated content. If we spot it, if we see it, right? Are we evaluating it? What are we asking ourselves to confirm whether that information is factual, whether to confirm where that information is coming from, how that information came to be, and can we verify that information? And I'd have you think as we go through this workshop and next week as well, if you join us next week, where do you land on this question? Are some applications of Gen AI technology better than others, right? Are there some ways where we can say that's a good use of generative AI and some that we have a reaction, oh no, I don't like that. That's not the best, right? Where are these lines and who is drawing them? I think this is a thread throughout really all of our workshops this year, right? What are we looking at with this new technology? Where do we stand on it? And where are lines being drawn? All right. So these are some questions for today. Do you have any questions for me before we jump in? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. Or if you have any thoughts on these big questions on the screen. If you have an answer, I'd love to hear it.
I have fun creating pictures with AI. Um, tell your phone or Google or whatever it is that you want to
Yeah,
create a picture with, you know, different things in it, and it'll create
yeah.
it for you. So that's fun.
I love that, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing. I've had a little fun with photo generation myself. I'm not much of an artist, so it's kind of nice to have a tool that can help put a vision in my mind to life. Yeah. Any other fun things that you've interacted with AI?
I think it's
Generative.
fun when, something goes wrong in the house and now we can figure out quickly how to fix it.
Something goes wrong in the house, and now we can figure out more quickly how to fix it.
hmm And I've used it actually also to troubleshoot my students in like computer classes, troubleshoot their problems that they send me if I am having a hard time figuring it out. AI has helped me with that, especially if they're like stuck in Outlook somewhere and I need help figuring out what I can use their screenshot to, determine what version they're using, but sometimes that's not enough and AI can really help me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So problem solving. I'm hearing in both of those
Mhm.
examples some problem solving. Good examples. And I want to point to Carol's comment. I think it takes away from the artist, but it is fun. A great point. There's so much to think about in regards to intellectual property in the training of these models. And I would love it if you came to next week's session, because we have lots of opportunity to converse and discuss that specific fact in next week's session, a Jeopardy style discussion game. That is a big, big, big question as far as ethics. Wonderful. Wonderful. And Greg has said making short video games has been intellectually fun. Yep, absolutely. And spoiler alert, the Jeopardy game that we're looking at next week was also AI generated, and that was fun for me to make as well. Today, I will say today's session, we're not going to get too deep into the ethics because there is so much to dive into and really not a lot of answers for that. But next week, we're going to have lots of opportunities to talk on that topic. Right. But it's always an undercurrent. I think anything generative AI related, that is going to be an undercurrent. And I'm so glad to see that we're already thinking about it and that's already on your mind. I'm not surprised, but I'm glad. All right. So we are getting a lot more interactive today. All right. So we're going to explore some games that have been created by Google. We're going to take a brief pause for privacy to consider privacy in the context of Gen AI games. And we're going to we're going to do our best if we have time to evaluate credibility of information in one or more game that we're looking at. So since we have mostly folks online here today, I'm going to put this link into the chat for you. But we're first going to look at a game together. And then we're going to have the opportunity to try out. I'm going to ask you to try out a game on your own, and then we'll come back and chat about it. And I do want to point out before we jump in, just a little disclaimer here. What this series, I'm not here to try and advocate either way, to use AI tools or to ban AI tools to make any kind of a blanket statement. The goal with this series is hopefully an invitation just to think critically, like we've already been doing in the first 5 minutes here, about generative AI and a safe place for discussion. So that is always going to be our goal with these workshops. All right. And this is the part where we are going to be kind of jumping off of the PowerPoint and jumping into a website. So I put that link into the chat. If you're in the room, there's a QR code. I'll give you a second to open that up, but if you can, please go ahead and open up that link. I'll continue screen sharing and we'll continue working together, but I'd love for you to open that. And as I was saying in the room before we got started, this presentation, I made this presentation about 3 weeks ago, and at that time, this link was different. Just a few days ago, Google did their big annual investment opportunity, new technology summit, the Google I/O, and they made a big change to one of the sites that I was planning to use in this workshop, Google Labs. We were going to be looking at Google Labs, and they've kind of re-envisioned and changed that today, just a few days ago now. We're looking at Google Arts and Culture. And I just find that to be interesting point to how quickly and how rapidly this technology is changing, that a link inserted in here a few weeks ago for the purpose of instruction and practice has already changed within that short period of time. And this is hopefully a reason why we're all here today is because we want to stay informed and we want to stay involved in the conversation, even if we are feeling a little bit of that burnout. Oh my God, generative AI again, another AI tool. Oh, just stay away from me. I think that is completely normal to be feeling. I share that feeling as well, often. But we do know, that it is here, and I think we all want to stay informed as much as we can. All right, so I have given you a link here, and you should be seeing Google Arts and Culture celebrating 15 Play. And if you haven't seen this before, you're in good company. I was introduced to this just very recently myself, and it hasn't always been generative AI. As you can see, it's celebrating 15. It has been different technology using, whether that's machine learning technology, whether that is coding technology, programming. The tool or the website here has been around for a long time. So not every game you see on here is AI generated or is using generative AI technology, but we're going to look at a couple that are. All right, so it's an interesting resource to have here. You can see kind of all the games, and it is arts and culture. So we're seeing things that are intended to be informational, instructional, right? Something like learning about the vibrant world of Matisse, okay? I wanted to look at a few specific ones here, and we're going to play some together, but really just looking at what is available here. So these ones down here play with your camera, right? So this one, if we're going to open up one of these games, okay, we're seeing a reality check. Bringing culture to augmented reality allows you to project 3D models into the real world through your phone camera. And I'm not seeing necessarily here that this specifically is created by generative AI. I'm not seeing any disclaimer on here as I'm scrolling through. I'd want to know. So I'm not saying that this game is generative AI. Right? Just taking a little tour through what's available here. Another one that involves your camera, your personal camera, right? Explore artworks around the world. Okay. We're going to try guess the line together. That's a fun one. So we have quite a few different games here. I see in the chat, Carol did the doodle guide. Pretty neat. Maybe fun is possible with these games. Greg did the art filter app. Does it look like me? Yeah, it's a really good rendition of librarian Greg Bem. And so Greg and everyone here, because I'd like to, before we dive in, stop for a little bit of a privacy checkpoint. I'm wondering, Greg, if that game has your face now.
Oh, yeah.
It already did. Greg said it already did have his face. It already did. So those ones where we're giving camera permission is interesting, right? Let's stop and think about that. What permissions are we giving? What privacy are we giving to the game, and who are we giving that to? Hi, welcome. What other privacy questions might we have as we engage in any of these games? What other privacy questions might come up for you?
How about do
Those
these
like
permissions?
Even that they've now got literally indoor, outdoor, they've got mapped indoor spaces, mapped outdoor spaces. And who is they, who's
Who
who's
is
doing what
they?
with the information that they're gathering, whether it's visual, whether it's intellectual property, but whatever that is, I think there's a question of,
Mhm.
okay, that they would say, if it's free, you're the product.
Yes, if it's free, you're the product. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about a little bit
Mhm.
of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so for those online, and I heard someone wanted to share online as well, but for those online, Melinda was saying about like Pokemon Go, how that geo mapping basically was taking place, and where is that going? I see that in the chat as where it as well. Where does the data collected from me go and why, right? And Melinda's comment, if it's free, then you're the product, right? Something to think about as we're engaging in different games here today. And you don't have to, please know, you're not required to click on any of these games that we're looking at here today. It is to your level of comfort. All right, and in the chat here, once AI captures you, it can embed your image into anything in the world. Who knows, right? I think that's what we're talking about here. We don't have transparency from these AI companies. We don't have clarity and transparency about where this is going. So looking at one of these where we're utilizing the camera, right? Did it say anything? Could you share, Greg? Did it give you any privacy disclaimer before you started that
The
game?
typical one that.
Mhm.
Camera to be accessed.
Okay.
Running this app.
Mhm. So it was your phone? Was it your phone?
Yeah.
It was so, the only disclaimer that came up, it sounds like, was what the phone provided, right? Privacy disclaimer. So that transparency piece. And so when I look at these, and I'd like to take a look at this one together, guess the line, right? So this is a game where AI judges your drawing skills. So we know that generative AI is involved. I think it is kind of a fun one, but it brings up some questions about, specifically, I think to Melinda's point in the room here, if you are not paying anything, then you are the product. As we engage with this game, I want us to think about in what way we might be the product, or we might be utilized. We might be giving something to the game. Right? And if we take a quick look at this came out in 2022. Let's do the best we can to find information about it. Artists in residence. So there were 2 artists in residence involved in this. And this game tells us to practice our sketching skills. We're drawing the items described on the cards. A machine learning powered robot tries to guess what you're drawing. And we have different prompts. It will give us a different prompt, and we're going to try our best to meet that. And the robot is going to guess the prompt. But as we're all the way down at the bottom here, and I'm not seeing a single thing about privacy. I'm not seeing a single thing about data. I'm not seeing a single thing about how this information is being used. I just have a share and I have a like button. Right. And yes, I am signed in. I will say that, but I do want to note that I've done this without being signed in an incognito window as well. And that's not the situation. It's not because I'm signed in that I've given Google some permissions in the past. This platform and this game is going to really not provide that information regardless. Right. We're going to jump in and play, and we're only going to do a couple, and I'm going to have to be the drawer here, and I'll let you know that I'm not very good at this. But it's guess the line. All right. So this is what I'm trying to draw: a collage of an egg, a collage of an egg. One single egg. Again, please don't judge my drawing skills. This is for demonstration purposes only. And you can answer the question, can we have fun with generative AI based on how much or little fun you're having looking at this? And it said to me, there's a 40% probability it's a stone flower. So it doesn't like it. I'm not doing very well here. I'm going to try to skip it. A flat laptop. I wonder if I just do a line, whether that would be a flat laptop. 49% probability this is a romantic fork. Sure what that is. How might I make a flat laptop? Maybe that could be a flat laptop. Oh, it didn't like it. I'm running out of time. I've not done very well whatsoever. Let's see what happens when I run out of time here. All right. We didn't manage to get any cards. I have failed. I'm going to retry and just do one more and see if we can get it right. Ooh, an architectural pyramid. And it's given me some AI curated inspirations. It said, you're not very good at this. I'll help you out here. Here's some architectural pyramids that you can try out. AI curated inspiration. All right, whoa. Okay, we should be able to. Oh, very interesting. So I haven't come across this in this game yet, but it looks like it is taking us even to more games, more things that it wants us to do, that it wants us to sign up for. All right. Very interesting. And I think this really is part of the point in exploring. I'm going to exit and I'm going to try one more time because to what I was saying before, they are constantly changing. What's going on here is constantly changing. I'm going to skip it. A geometric drill, a triangular egg. Just a triangle? Just a triangle? What do we think? Would that be a triangular egg? 50% probability this is a playful pyramid. Okay. Maybe if I add in a bit more of an oval around it. Okay, 90% sure it's a triangular egg. Okay, we got one. AI is 90% sure that that's a triangular egg. Would you believe that that's a triangular egg?
No.
No. In the room, we said no. On chat, do you think that that's a triangular egg? A good representation? No. Yeah, it's not. I'm a terrible artist, right? But AI thinks it is. AI is 97% sure that it is. So all the other times, something with this game, right? It's a machine learning robot. And as we're drawing things, it is learning what we humans think that that prompt means. And then it is digesting that and relearning and retraining itself on that. So over time, other people have been given that prompt and they have done their interpretation of a triangular egg. And over time, this AI robot has come to 97% certainty that that is a triangular egg. And yet we are all in this room saying, I don't think that's a triangular egg, right? I don't think that that looks great. So what does that mean for the way that generative AI thinks about certainty, for the way that generative AI is trained? Is that something that we want to think about, right? If it can come and say 97% sure that's a triangular egg, what else is it 97% sure about that we would not agree with, that we would say, absolutely not, AI, that's not a triangular egg? A little bit of food for thought. Any thoughts on that? Lots of thoughts, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, we've got 30 seconds to try and convey a thought as a human, right?
Yeah.
And like, I would never have said that's a triangular egg, you know, or like not even in my wildest dreams. Not because you did badly, but because conceptually a triangular egg doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
Because it's not something that's real.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, so how would I convey that as a human to another human? It might be like, okay, I have to put like the cracks in it and it's opened up and it's got a chick coming out or something like that, but I've got 30 seconds with a mouse to
Yes.
try and convey this concept, right? And I'm not an artist. Mine would be that or worse. So, you know, it's like,
Yes.
I don't know. I just feel like, how is it? So AI is looking at this imaginary thing already,
Yes.
and then trying to interpret our bad interpretation. It just seems
It's also interesting because like triangular egg could be a thing. It could be its own thing, the same way a Pikachu is its own thing. And out of the billions
just
of
don't know
people
it.
in the world,
Yeah.
maybe 100 million know what a triangular egg is. Or maybe it isn't a thing and it's just we're interpreting these two very broad words
Yeah.
literally. But then also egg has multiple meanings.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think probably many people would think of like bird egg or chicken egg, like a spherical egg the way you do. But also there are other shapes and sizes and styles of egg.
Yeah.
Egg being
An omelet and a triangular omelet.
Omelet, right? I was
egg
scrambled
being a
egg.
concept, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
an idea.
An idea, yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't-
One of those nesting eggs, perhaps.
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Really great
My
point. Thank you
thought-
for bringing them up. Yeah, and then on teams there.
So my thought was to think of like an egg in a frying pan. So, you know, when you're frying more than one thing together,
Right.
it can turn out to be the shape that, you know, the other things around it are making it be.
Maybe you
So,
have bacon, 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 and an egg in the
Yeah.
middle, and it's
Yeah.
so it turns into yeah.
so like it could totally be something like that too.
Yeah. And to Melinda's point, which I think is, I really do want to zoom in on imagination, right? It's how we're imagining it, and we can all imagine it differently. And imagination is something that AI really, really struggles with, right? And this game is learning something from us. It's trying to get something from us, and it's only giving us 30 seconds to do it. So can I draw 3 pieces of bacon and a fried egg in the middle in 30 seconds in a frying pan with a mouse and one single line? I would really struggle to do that.
Well, and I'm thinking too, how it's a language learning model, right? So triangle egg, right? So triangular egg. You know, it's almost like it's a literal, like, okay, it got it. I would never have gotten that as a human, right?
Right.
But because it's
Mhm.
very literal, it's
Mhm.
taking the word and that, you know, like, I don't know.
It's a language model. The way these large language models work is on prediction, right? I think that's where you're going with it. It's predicting what can come next, what word can come next, and it's taking it from a very literal basis with that, right? Okay, I've read all of these things and it makes sense that this word would come next. And perhaps it realized, hey, I have never really heard these two words together. So I wonder what that would look like, right? Triangular egg.
I know what a triangle, it associates with
Mhm.
triangle and egg, so, you know, okay, and I put it on top of each other, so it's, I
Yes.
mean, I don't know.
No, I think that's an amazing point. I think that's an amazing point, because the question, and perhaps I should pop back here too. A question I'm interested in is, why does this game exist, right? Why do you think that this game exists? And what we're sharing in the room here, things about imagination, about creativity, right? Things about unexpected combinations that generative AI, large language models might not be exposed to because we don't talk about that. It makes me wonder if that's the reason why this game exists.
Wonder about the other aspects of play that remind me of games that came out before Gen, like charades and
Sure.
illustrations. There's a Pictionary. There's a
Pictionary.
gazillion of them.
Good.
But I feel like it's getting at something about how we explore ideas, how we explore communication and communicating language. Like that's it seems like a very human thing. And it also seems, in this case, like a great Gen AI, a human Gen AI use case. Because it's doing the same thing that we do without Gen AI, just with this new technology.
Are you saying that Gen AI needed some friends? It was sad that it didn't have anyone to play charades with. No, I think that's a really interesting question and a really interesting avenue to go down, right? Arts and culture. I think that's pointing to even this idea of arts and culture. We're in Google Arts and Culture and it says play, right? It's something, art and culture are things that are very human. And so much of what we talk about with generative AI, even what came up in the chat here, right? This is an area where humans excel and generative AI does not, right? Creativity and imagination, culture, humanity. We are now seeing this movement in these games, in this game, to try and perhaps get trained on that and get a little bit more insight into how us as humans engage with those topics. That's something that I see here. Lori has said in there to learn how we think. I think that's to the question of why do you think this game exists? To learn how we think. Yeah, and maybe to learn how we interact. Maybe even to learn why we interact in that way. Things that maybe can't be learned through large amounts of information, but need to be learned in some way through interaction. Okay, how would you, so I was hoping we'd have time to have everyone try a game and then report back on the game that you chose. Would you be interested in trying out a game today? Yes? In online, would you be interested in trying out a game? I have a few recommendations. We did Guess the Line. Say What You See is a pretty fun one as well. Learn the art of image prompting. There's also a Food Mood, and that one's pretty quick. You can select different factors as far as culinary styles, the amount of people you're feeding, if you're doing an appetizer or if you're doing a main meal or a dessert, and then it will give you a recipe. And I gotta go here. Mice in the Museum is also a really interesting one, an AI-powered adventure featuring 2 curious mice exploring this museum that I will not try to pronounce in Berlin and discussing the artworks. That one is quite interesting. And Talking Towards India I'm hoping we have time to look at that one together. Those are just some of my suggestions. I know someone in the chat tried out the Doodle Guide, but please take a few minutes here and try out one of these games. And this would be the QR code in the room here. If you haven't got it, I'm sorry for the delay on that. To join, that would be the QR code there. Say What You, Guess the Line is what we did. Say What You See, Food Mood, and Mice in the Museum were 4 that I tried out that I felt hit on slightly different areas. Some were a bit more informative. The Mice in the Museum is an audio one. Some of them are longer than others, but let's take at least 5 minutes here just to try it out. And I will, without speaking, I'm going to do Say What You See on. So if you're not able or not interested in playing a game yourself, feel free to just watch while I fail at this game. I don't know anything about, I don't know nearly enough about art to do this one.
Playing with the food.
Food mood? Let's do a little food mood.
I struggle with what's for dinner for family, so yeah. But it kind of comes up with a little bit like chopped. Like, okay, here's what's in your basket.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. All right, you know.
We could do a combo workshop with culinary where we do this game, teach a little bit about Gen AI, and then say, hey, can you make it?
Oh my goodness,
And then
that
we can
would be
always
so
evaluate
fun.
if it's any good. If it's
Or even just analyze the recipe. Why would this work? Why would it not?
Why
work?
would it? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be able to say, oh, like I've got, I did between Samoa and Italy,
Okay.
and I got coconut tuna carbonara with taro.
I don't want that at all. Coconut tuna carbonara.
Yes,
With
it's a
taro.
coconut creamy tuna over spaghetti.
Oh,
with taro.
no.
Go to the desk, but I'll be on.
Okay. All right.
Highly amused.
I think, so if you're still playing, that's great. We will come back here when you can. Did you have fun? Yeah? Did you have a little fun? Yeah? Okay, how about in the chat? Did you have fun with the game that you tried? That is one of our overarching questions for this workshop. Can you have fun?
did.
with
Jamie
generative
did.
AI? Jamie did. All right, which one did you choose, Jamie?
I actually watched you.
You watched me. Oh gosh.
had
I
fun.
tried the sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I had fun. I played the same game you were playing, and actually did pretty well. You have to be pretty descriptive though.
The prompting game, say what you see, is what I did, what Jennifer did. Yeah. And you have to be pretty descriptive with it. You do. Had some fun in there. Would anyone else like to share the game that they chose? And a little bit about their experience. I see in the chat, Carol has said it was fun. I don't see myself spending my time doing this. Yeah, fair point. I chose Say What You See, and Christy watched the one that I did, which was also Say What You See. Entertaining, right? I'm glad to hear it.
I kind of wonder what this does to the brain.
Yeah.
If it, I say tickles the brain and it's in the same way, let's say, like my mom's a avid game player and she plays board games all the time on her iPad. Like if she's not watching television or, doing her dog stuff, she's on her iPad. That's her way of, kind of escaping. But the word games have very specific, portion of the brain that it uses. It makes me wonder, like, which part of the brain, or are we offloading certain, like, Say What You See, you actually do have to be really descriptive, and you're actually having to engage your brain.
Absolutely.
Whereas like the food one that I played is kind of a little bit just, okay, what's it gonna come up with, and I can laugh at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Sudoku, they talk about how Sudoku and crosswords and things as folks are aging, it can help our brains stay. And so maybe a game like the one that I did, Say What You See, or even the one that we were doing together, the Guess the Line, you are engaging your thinking in some way, versus the food mood where you're plugging something in that has maybe more of like a functional purpose. Whether or not it is functional, we're not sure, right? Yeah. And one of the other ones that I pointed to was Mice in the Museum. The Mice in the Museum one has a slightly different purpose again. So Mice in the Museum, I find it to be a really interesting one. An AI-powered adventure featuring two curious mice exploring a museum, a real museum, and discussing the artworks. And Greg has said it didn't feel like a game. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah, what did that feel like? Because we kind of have a spectrum here. We have a spectrum of really kind of maybe silly fun, and then, but it also goes from what we're seeing with these games, right? It's going to maybe something more instructional. An audio-visual rendition of Gen AI generative text is what Greg has said. an audio-visual rendition of Gen AI generative text. So I take that to maybe be, there wasn't a lot of depth to it. Is that what you mean with that comment? Not much interaction, okay? Not much interaction. I'd be fascinated to know someone who's been to this museum, what they think about the information. So in this game, we see different pieces of art from this museum, and AI generated text gives, it says, playful and surprising perspectives. We're looking at important collections of European paintings from the 13th to 18th century. Right. So using Gemini, the Google's LLM, to analyze the artwork's metadata and visuals, and based on the analysis, it generates a script that is then voiced in real time by Google AI audio model. Have anyone been to this museum?
Yes.
You have been to the museum. And when you're at the museum, did it come with one of those, you know how sometimes museums have an audio tour, something like
Not
that?
it's 20 years ago, so.
Because that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
We have that, right? Okay, so maybe it's kind of something like that. And Greg has said, it pulls an art piece, the mice discuss the artwork, that's about it, right? Could one argue that maybe it is an instructional opportunity if someone isn't able to go to the museum? I can't get a flight to Germany, but I'm really interested in a piece in Rembrandt's. And maybe this is a way that I could engage with that artwork. Could be an argument. This
I
game,
think there's so much, like, this could be, you know, okay, this is fine if you're gonna do maybe a learning or exposure tool, I guess. But I think that as to Greg's point, there may be a level of, or a lack of depth, or a lack of human, like you can feel the or for lack of a better term, can tell it's not human, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of
the interpretation, what the mice are saying.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like, yeah, between with the dialogue kind of thing. We see it on TikTok now all the time. You actually see AI video content that's created that are actual shows. But you can tell that the scripting and even the people, even if you could kind of tell they might be AI,
Yeah.
the scripting is so it's devoid of feeling. You can tell that it's just very much, it's flat. It's very flat. So I'm wondering if that's kind of the feeling that Greg got.
Yeah. Absolutely. Greg's sharing a little bit, it seems. And while we wait for that, I do want to point out there's a few like that. One of the ones I wanted us to look at is the Talking Tours India. They do talking tours, and I'll just talk a little bit. And this is the Google Maps technology, and then AI is put into that. So we're in Google Maps, we're touring an area of the world, and then AI is narrating, and it can even answer questions for us. Something to think about.
Pull in Google reviews of a restaurant that you're walking by in the tour.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And something that is very interesting about the talking tours as well is that because it's Google Maps, you know how if you look at Google Maps, sometimes the street view, you see people because when the car drove by, it captured people. So that's there in these talking tours. There's people whose likenesses have been captured and are now being used in this way. Brings me back to privacy, for which I don't have an answer, but a lot of questions, right? Things to think about as far as people's likenesses being used in generative AI tools. Greg asked, why mice? Good question. Would love to know. And Christy has another version of replacing humanity. Yeah. Especially something like a museum. I could see it. I could see it both ways. Like, hey, great. I really would love to go to that museum, or I'd love to go to India, or I'd love to go to the National Gallery, and I just can't. So I'm going to explore it a little bit. And it's nice to have maybe some background on this, right? Someone could argue. And on the flip side, someone could argue generative AI really needs to stay out of art. That this is so human. It's such an expression of our humanity, arts and culture, that really there is no place. Fun or foe? Fun or foe?
But couldn't we just read about the art as well and see, you know, there are books that show us this art and tell us about this artwork as well. So, I mean, is this meant to like replace books and reading?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for saying that, Jennifer, because it's a perfect transition into the final main point that I'd really like to make here today. Right? I hope that you've had a little bit of fun with it, but also remain skeptical in regards to things like privacy, your data, how that's being used, and how our engagement with these tools is doing something, is serving some kind of purpose of training that model, perhaps. But whatever it is, it's not transparent. It's not clear to us. So we can maybe engage, but still hold that to be true and hold that to be something that we're concerned about. And also to what Jennifer said, there's something else really important that I think we need to hold on to that becomes a bit more important with something like talking tours or like that museum exhibit, which is, how do I trust this information? Why am I trusting 2 little generated mice? What do they know about Rembrandt? Right? Do they know anything about Rembrandt? Right? How can we evaluate Gen AI content? And I think someone might say to the question like, hey, well, we have books. Someone might be tempted to say, and I don't have time to read all those books, right? And I'm not an expert in researching and finding that information. Right? And so it's nice to be told by a cute little mouse in my ear information about this piece of art, right? But as a librarian in a library workshop, I really want to zoom in on this question of evaluation. Can we trust it, right? Is this true? Can we verify that information that we're being given and center again how important that is, not only in regards to art, not only in regards to these games, but in regards to anything AI generated. So I have one suggestion, one framework that we can utilize that I'd love to talk about as we come to an end here. And I do that every time, and I need to press present from this slide instead of present from beginning, right? And before I jump in, just to the comments in the chat, dystopian, when we all have cybernetic implants, will we need reading at all? Is Gen AI the replacement for reading, right? One day it'll come, Gen AI will no longer need humans. We are getting quite dystopian. Yeah. Hopefully that day doesn't come. I've shared before, my secret hope, personally, my secret hope is that the more that we get AI, and this is again personal, but my personal secret hope is the more AI generated content we get, the more value will be placed on human creation. I'm going to keep saying it until it becomes true, and artists get paid what they're worth, and writers get paid what they're worth, and musicians and all of that, and all the human creativity and art gets valued in the way that it should be, because we are so inundated with AI generated information and art that we swing the pendulum the other way to human creative works. That's my secret hope. That is my secret hope. But until we get there, agreed, yes, we're going to make it happen. Those of us in here, until we get there, we can arm ourselves with strategies like SIFT. SIFT is an information literacy framework. We talk about a lot of different ways to evaluate information as librarians. We have a lot of acronyms for for the way that we do it. SIFT is one that is really relevant for information found online, and I've done it a bit, and I wish I had time to do the example here in the room, because I tried this. I tried talking towards India, and I applied the SIFT framework to the information that AI was giving me about the tour that I was taking. And there were, for every landmark that I saw, there was at least one piece of information generated by AI in that game that I was not able to verify, that I tried to verify and I was not able to verify. It said, hey, this is, this landmark and this person studied here. And I look up that person in an encyclopedia, and the encyclopedia says, we actually don't know anything about this guy. There's no written records and we don't know, right? So SIFT is a framework that helps us to evaluate and check information that we find online. And the first thing that we need to do when we're sifting is stop. Right? We see a piece of information. The mice in the museum tell us that the piece of art has an apple, and the apple represents the bounty of the time period. Right? And we stop and we say, I didn't think the 15th century was a very bountiful time. So maybe I want to verify if experts in those books, I want to read and I want to check whether this claim can be verified, right? Investigate the source. So with this specific application, talking about these games, there is a little investigation we could do. When we look at those games, there were some artists in residence that we could look up. Maybe we could find some information on them. But overall, what we know is that the source is generative AI. So there's a lot more investigation that we can do. But what we can say is maybe we can say, I don't fully trust this source, right? So then we're going to go and find better coverage. So we're going to try to do more searching. Lateral reading is what we call this, where we're going to have our tab open. I'm sorry, I'm going to skip over just like what I have here, but now we're going to open a new tab and we're going to do a search and maybe we're going to go directly to the library databases and we're going to, don't have it big enough. We're going to go to the library databases and we're going to do a search here for that Rembrandt piece, right? Search the artist name and the title and see what our library databases have to say about that. See what information we might find in an encyclopedia, right? Maybe it's too specific. We can't find it. We want to do, maybe we'll do a site.edu search on Google for Rembrandt. And we'll say, I want to learn a bit more about this. I'm not finding it in the library databases, but maybe I can narrow my search down and look at some educational resources. Tab after tab after tab, as we try to verify that claim, as we investigate and we try to get to the bottom of whether or not we can trust that information, right? Whether or not we can trust the information that we're being given. So find better coverage, look around through trusted sources and see if what you're being told is true and if it's verifiable. If possible, overall for the SIFT framework, the T is trace. Try to trace that to the original context. So generative AI, it's giving us information from tons and tons and tons of different sources. If we are just talking to ChatGPT or talking to Gemini, we can ask generative AI, we can say, what's your source? In these games, we don't have that option. So in tools like this, and I focus on these Google games because they're an example that we can use in this session, but I think we'll see more and more of this, right, as we continue. So AI generated information that's embedded in something else that we don't have that power or that ability to ask, give me your source for that, right? Sift through, see if you can verify. Don't trust it straight away. Stop, investigate, find better coverage from trusted sources from those books, right? And see if you can find the original. You might be able to. You might be able to, and we might find in an article in the library, we might find a Rembrandt scholar who has a whole paper, a whole book about the meaning of that apple. And that apple really does mean bounty. And it really does mean that it was a bountiful time in the artist's life or in the time period they were, right? We may find that the AI generated information we're getting is verifiable. But hopefully, as we go through this process now, if we want to tell someone else, hey, did you know that apple means bountiful? We can trust that we did our research, that we verified that claim instead of just trusting what generative AI said. Okay. Okay. Any thoughts on the SIFT framework? Do you feel that is something either you already do, right? We use these acronyms, but a lot of the time it's like, I kind of do that already. I don't just trust everything I read online. I go and check it. I think most of us probably engage in this at least a little bit, but yeah. We got to be a little skeptical. can't trust everything we see online. This is just putting some words to it. And I did just want to end the workshop on this note, on this idea that fun or foe, right? We might be able to have fun with AI generated tools and games and things like that. But let's be a little careful along the way, and let's be intentional of the way that we engage with it, and know that we do have strategies and we do have ways of really verifying. And maybe that's how we are able to engage with the tool on a personal level, that we go ahead and we verify that. That's what Lori has said in the chat. Usually check with at least 3 reputable sources. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic practice. Okay. And if you want to do this on your own, I would encourage you to give it a try, to do the talking tours. See if you can verify some of the claims that are made. I'm not saying they're all incorrect, but I'm saying that for every landmark that I personally looked at, there was at least one incorrect claim, or let me not say incorrect. Let me say one claim that I was not able to verify. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts? Any thoughts online? Thank you so much. Next week, we're doing the showdown. As I mentioned, it's a Jeopardy style game, and we're going into categories like ethics, like creativity, like art. There's no right or wrong answers for the showdown. It is going to be a discussion-based game. I hope to see you there. I hope that you have had at least a little bit of fun and have been able to think, engage critically with this topic here today. If you have any questions, this is my email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now.